Welcome once again to another episode of Master Pick Theatre with your intrepid host, Kirk.
Guitar picks. A dime a dozen? 3 for $5? You be the judge. Let's chat. Now for your feature presentation, let's talk about guitar picks, and probably cats. So I've got some guitar picks. This is a small bit of my collection, but you play for 35, 36 years, and you collect dog hair and cat hair and stuff like that, and you get a few things that, you know, even rocks that you can use as guitar picks that I don't really use very often, but there they are, just the same. So this is ivory. Good guitar pick, weirdly. It works. Cattlebone, good. Shell, good. Rock, good. All right. Agate, good. Here's a Wiegand pick. Excellent pick. I'm looking for this for a while, actually. So this is buffalo horn. Very cool. So the whole point about all of this is to, you know, weapon of choice. If you're going to kill an elephant, would you take a 22 to the elephant? The answer, of course, is, yeah, sure, 1,000 times. Sure, no, of course not. More hair, but right here, this is 0.60. Works really, really great. Has a nice thwacky sound. Good for certain things. If I'm playing lighter gauge strings or if I'm playing a lower tuned guitar, I would probably think about using a lighter gauge pick because its movement and the fact that it does move corresponds with the fact that the strings that you're using that are down tuned are going to move a lot more, or that are lighter gauge. They're going to move a lot more. Use a lighter guitar pick. It's a very, very cool bit of science. Another thing, though, is if I'm going to be playing something really, you know, loud, fast, and thrash, and I want something a little stiffer to go along also with stiffer strings, probably going to go with one of these flows. Do like these very much. Here's a flow bulb from Horizon Devices that I was talking about, or a Pick Boy metacarbonate. So if you listen to the sound of the pick when we drop them, as we drop them, you'll hear a difference in the tones that they make. And these tones transfer as chirps onto the strings. So the brighter the tone, the louder the chirp, possibly. There's this. Here's this, but of course it's going to be a big clunky thing. Now that actually makes a kind of a chirpy sound anyway when you pick it, just because it's such an enormous thing. This is going to make a chirp as well. That's stainless steel. Here is a nice plec. It's going to be a more dull sound. Metacarbonate again. It's kind of chirpy. Oh, here's a quarter. A 1974 quarter. It's as old as me. But these will all have different sounds. And each of these sounds, like these are great. Transfer that sound onto the string when you use it. So, depending on the sound that you want to get, and depending on how you're playing, and if you're using picks, of course, for guitar covers, you may want to use the same kind of pick that the person you're emulating did. So Randy Rhoads, for instance, he just used standard Fender heavies, and this is essentially a standard Fender heavy. It's a red coat. Well, it's not even a heavy, it's a medium. But you get the general idea. That's not quite right. This is essentially Music Lily, but it's a standard Fender heavy by all intents and purposes, except it's probably not flammable. But I would use something like that if I'm doing a Randy Rhoads tune. I might use something like this if I'm doing something from Racer X. So it's a little on the dull side, actually, for Racer X. Paul Gilbert, back in the day, he used to take a standard Tortex, a thicker one though, and he would file them to a point. Well, Dunlop makes those too, and they do work pretty remarkably well, I have to say. Then, of course, there's the stubbies. I used to use those for, like, thrash. Don't have to, but, you know, you can. And those are just, I guess the point that I'm making is none of these are one-trick ponies. You don't use the same size nail, for instance, to do a roof, you know, to do a roofing job as you would do to hang a painting. You know, these are different tools to accomplish different tasks. It's nice to have, kind of a home base. I do like these very much. I dig these, actually. This one, Prime Tone Dunlop, one of my favorites of all time. Let's go for here. Prodigies are nice, like I said before, because these make sure that you're accurate. The fact that it's so dang sharp, it doesn't like to move through strings very easily. So you have to kind of play with a lot of relaxation in order to facilitate picking correctly on the dang thing. Otherwise, it just holds you up. But, yeah, let's see here. Let me get you another one here. Fake Jazz 3s. Yes, as you can tell, I've got some Kirk Hammett's. Those are actually really good. That little cut in it doesn't help, doesn't hurt. It's just fine. Standard Jazz 3. I don't like the red Jazz 3s, but they seem to be a little on the slippery side. But all the Jazz 3 varieties I'm kind of a fan of. Boy, there's a lot of dog hair in this. That is a very vibrant pick. Oh, Philadelphia Luthier Tool. If you ever need some stuff to do your frets, that's some good stuff. This is Dunlop's take on a Wigan. This is also a Buffalo Horn Jazz pick. They sound great. They play really well. Again, the point would be to figure out the sound that you need for what you're playing, and the best thing to facilitate not only the sound, but the best thing to facilitate the playing style of the person that you're emulating. So my opinion, find out what Diamond Darrell used and try and use that too. And you will probably find that you have to change some of the way you play in order to sound a little bit more like him. Because when you use the same tools as the artist, those tools, well, they have their idiosyncrasies, and they make you, if you're going to sound like the artist at least, they make you attack things maybe slightly differently than you're doing, but it gives you a deeper insight into the artist that you admire. It's pretty nifty stuff. Well, back to the Masterpiece Theater guy. Ah, you're back. And so, to put a capstone in this, as you can see, having just one pick for the job may be the equivalent of trying to put out a house fire with a squirt gun. Or, conversely, trying to wet the leaves of your plants with a fire hose. There's a right tool for the job. As an illustration, a lot of times I find guitarists get the particular sounds that they do with a different type of angle on the pick. And if you use a certain type of pick, it's easier to do what I'm about to demonstrate. So if I'm using a tiny little pick here with a very sharp point, and I'm choking up on it, it's much harder to do kind of downward pick slanted brush strokes, feathered across the strings rapidly in rhythms such as Max Cavalera's. The way he downpicks is more like kind of brush strokes. However, if I use a larger plectrum, something that is more common, let's say this, which used to actually be a credit card, but you can make picks out of there, man. They're pretty good. So you can turn the pick this way, choke up on it over here just fine, but leave a little bit more exposed down below, and brush all you want, and it's the right sound. So you see, yeah, it's a little bit about the way you play, because some picks are easier to go through strings than others, much easier to play than others. Some to the degree, though, that it's going to have a chirpiness to it, a sound that's like the whole time you're playing, and eventually that gets old. So the thicker the pick, the more you probably run into that kind of a problem. But, and more to the point, yes, the pick may help you facilitate certain techniques, but a pick that'll let you do that and other picks don't mean you don't really have the technique. I'll underline that. If you're using a pick and it's the only pick that lets you play a certain way fast, then you don't really have the technique, because you can't just transfer it over to a different pick and play with that in the same kind of a way. Now, you're going to have to change the way you do it a little bit in order to do it. But the technique, if you can't do it with every pick, then you can only do it with some picks, then you don't really own the technique. This is not to say that an F1 driver can't drive a Volkswagen around an F1 track in record time, because of course they can't do that. but I'll bet you an F1 driver can drive around the track in a Volkswagen faster than the common person trying to drive around the track without any kind of official like A, B, or C licenses. So they can definitely drive better. I think that's the whole point. Top Gear, the Stig, drove every car pretty much faster than everybody else because he had the skill to do it. Didn't matter what the car was. So the point is, it doesn't matter what the pick really is. Technique lies with you.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Master Pick Theatre. Stay tuned for another episode of Master Pick Theatre, coming soon to a screen near you.
All right, enough of my rant. You made me do this. Don't make me do more